Right. So, because last sessions we discussed about the functional part, right? User interface function part of creating an application. Okay. So, in context to um, the policy document, policy application, prior to that, how to create an account, right? That part we have covered. Now, from the developmental perspective, today onwards, we are going to discuss about few things. One is on the data model, point number one, first point. So after data model, we must be knowing about what are the different PCF file configurations that we want to perform, etc. Next, we'll be knowing about the rating part, etc. All that. Okay. So first of all, if there is any developmental from the configuration point of view as a BA we do, there are two major things are there. One is data model we have to configure. Second, we have to configure the user interfaces, user interface screens. This part I discussed, I told you a couple of times earlier. Now, first of all, we should know what exactly data model is all about. Okay, data model or database. Because if you see any of the application, so if you see any of the application, for example, if you see Guidewire as a policy center as an application, Guidewire policy center, okay, application, if you see, normally you will be finding three layers here. This is the first layer. This is the second layer. This part, if you remember in the beginning on a high level note, I told you. This is the presentation layer. Presentation layer means whatever the user interface screens that you have seen or whatever the user interface learning that I have covered so far. How to create policy document, how to create an account. Everything will be part of user interface. This is the first interface, which is called presentation layer. Second is called business logic layer. Means if you want to write a code or a business logic for a particular functionality, for example, policy cancellation. Okay, for policy cancellation, you require some functionality that is to be implemented. Or it can be reinstatement, it can be creation of new policy, or you are updating some underwriting screens or something. Everything can be done under the business logic layer. This is the second layer, which is the middle layer. Whatever the code that we want to write, everything will be written in this part in here. Now, the one which we are discussing about, the third one, the last one, this is the below one, which is called data layer. Data layer means whatever the policy screens that you have seen for policy creation or applications or anything, okay, reinstatement, everything. So whatever that you have seen is the user interface, what you see it on the screen. But where the dependency will be laid, dependency will be laid in the data layer. Data layer means here we need to create a database. We have to create some data dictionary, data tables, everything has to be created. And whatever the data that we are mentioning, for example, you have mentioned about the name of the policy holder or the type of the policy that he has taken, or else what are the different forms that we are using. Everything we have updated in the application. Okay, you know that yesterday we have created, of course, in couple of days we have created those. So where it has to store, it has to be stored in the data layer. In what form? This is what we call it as data dictionary. Data dictionary means there are different columns you will be finding here. If you have updated the customer name, it will be stored in the customer column. If you have updated the policy, what type of policy a person has taken, it will be stored in the column which is relating to the policy type of policy and all. Okay, what are the forms they are using? For example, tenure we have decided. Tenure will be decided. Tenure will be stored in the tenure column here in the database listing. So data dictionary has to be managed. Means if you want to make some corrections in the application, for example, you want to add one more table to the existing one more field to the existing one. Subsequently, this field related table has to be updated in the database table equally, because the data will be stored in the database table. From there, we will be retrieving. How do we retrieve and all? That's a different story, using SQL queries and all that. So we can extract the data. For example, as a user, you want to know how many people have registered for commercial policy commercial vehicle policy in the last 3 months. You want to know the report. As a user, okay, I'm referring to, listen carefully. As a user, you want to know how many people have taken policies in last 3 months for commercial vehicle. That too in commercial vehicle in a particular state. You want to know, for example, Florida, right? So there you want to know how many people have taken policies in a particular state. So how do you know that? So you want to extract the data from the database, because database or data layer where you will be storing all the data, whatever is relating for your insurance application, policy data will be stored in different data layers using data dictionary. Whatever that we have designed, everything will be stored over there. From here we can retrieve whatever the information you want to retrieve. Everything can be retrieved from the data layer so that you can see it on the screen. This is what we call it as screens and forms. Okay, please write down. Screens and forms. Screens are used as a input to provide the data. For example, account application page, or policy application page, etc. These are all we call it as forms. So forms are used to update the data. Whatever you have seen is called forms. Forms will be in a form of user interface. Now reports. Reports are the one that we generate. Reports are the one that we generate based on the query that we raised. For example, if we want to know, how many people have taken commercial vehicle insurance. How many people have taken commercial vehicle insurance? In last 3 months. As a user, for example, you want it. Okay. You want how many people have taken commercial vehicle insurance in last 3 months. You want to know, maybe for a particular state or so. Okay. How this can be done? This can be done using this can be done using these queries, right? For this, we use SQL. Stands for structured query language, to extract this from the database. Because in this database, this data dictionary is created. In this data dictionary, whatever the required information, everything is updated here. From there, you are extracting it and you are showing it. You got my point clear? Understood now, right?
Sir, yes.
Right. So this is what generally application refers to. Application have a presentation layer, a business logic, and data layer. So why am I saying all these? So you can ask me one thing, Raj, why am I discussing all that? Because first of all, if you are into the development side, as far as the Guidewire development is concerned, it's not only about the page level configuration or fields that we are updating. Subsequently, we have to make changes in the data model also. So knowing about the data model is more important. Okay, please write down data model. Now we are writing about what is data model stands for. We are starting from data model now. Okay, please do remember.
Yes, sir.
Talking about data model, right? Data model. What data model is? Write down some questions because you want it from the basics, right? You want it from the basics, right? That's what you're expecting. Okay, write down. What is data model? Why and where is this used? Why and where it is used? What is data model? Why and where it is used? So two questions. First of all, you must be knowing about what is data model. Second, why and where is this used? Write down. Data model. Data model is the one. Data model is the one which organizes the insurance information, insurance information such as insurance information such as policy holder details, etc. Policy holder details, etc. through entities, through entities which are predefined, which are excuse me, which are predefined list of values, predefined list of values for consistency in data entity, in data entity, followed by a relationship among all, followed by a relationship among all. Among all. This data, comma continuation, a full stop continuation. This data model consists of entities, entity fields, entities. What is entity? What is entity field? That you need to know. That I will explain below. Okay. Consists of entities, entity fields, type list, followed by type keys,
Sir.
type list, followed by type keys, where these data fields, stores, where these data fields stores single value, single value single value, which is not referred to, which is not referred to any object or table. Any object or table. Examples as follows. Examples as follows. Name equal to string. Name equal to string. Create time. Name will be called from a string point of view. Okay, name equal to string. Create time. Create time is a data type. Create time is a data type. Next, prefer contacts by email is a bit. Score is called as integer. Score is called integer. Understood? Clear now? Are you writing? Right. So name means string. Okay. If you want to give score and all, it is called integer, decimal. Okay. Primary characters, secondary characters, right? So primary value, secondary value, integer values, right? So different values to be provided in the database. So when we try to understand about the data model, first of all, when we try to understand about the data model, especially on the Guidewire, first of all, you must be knowing about what entity, what type list is all about, what fields are, what extension is all about. That you must be knowing. Okay. First of all, write down key components. Key components. When we are working on data model, when we are working on data model, which should have an idea, which should have an idea, are as follows. Are as follows. First one. First one, entity. First one, entity. Second, type list. Type list. Third, fields. Third, fields. Fields. Next, extensions. Extensions, etc. So there are a few things which we must be knowing, right? What is entity? What is type list? What is field? What is extension? This we must be aware of. Okay. Please make a note. Entities. Entities are the one. Entities are the one which represents the core business objects, which represents the core business objects such as core business objects such as policy, account, contact, etc. account, contact, etc. Contact, etc. Comma. This entities means whatever the, for example, you are creating a policy, right? So you are creating an account, you are creating a contact. This is all we call it as entities. Okay. Write down these entity fields here because I don't need to tell you. It was on the screen itself. You can take it. Entity fields, it means you can write down more examples. ID, name, create name, email, score. Okay. All these will be called as entities. Then next continuation. Yeah. After that, continuation, comma, full stop, you can continue. Each entity each entity. These are all we call it as entities. Entities means whatever the fields that you are mentioning. Okay, these are all we call it as entities. Okay. Each entity maps to the each entity maps to the single database table single database table which contains fields which contains fields that store that store that store specific information about the object. About the object, which these can be inherit which these can be inherit from parent entities which can be inherit from parent entities through a process which is similar to object oriented inheritance. Object oriented inheritance. This is called entity. Okay, whatever that entity name, right? So all these things are called as entities. So there can be multiple entities you have to add. For example, we have used the policy center application earlier. So there was a drop down box for cancellation, for example, okay, cancellation, right? So let's say policy is created. In the drop down box, we have only an option called cancellation, okay? Normally, we have renewal reinstatement also, but let us assume, okay, in the policy application, when you are clicking on the drop down box, once you have opened the application, customer has paid the second uh, term payment. Okay, first 1 year renewal, 1 year first payment was made. Second year he is about to pay. So that we have to renew the policy. If you want to renew the policy, what is required on the policy screen? You have to check the drop down box, click the drop down box, choose the renewal button so that you can renew it. So that billing people can renew that accordingly. Assume that there was no entity name called renewal was there. Assume that. So what we have to do, you have to add the entity to the existing one. This is what generally they called as entities. Whatever the insurance information that we are updating, these are all we call it as entities. Understood now? Clear? Next, type list.
Clear, sir.
Type list. Type list. These are predefined static list, predefined statics list of valid code which are used for fields within entities. Which are used for fields within entities. Okay, comma continuation. It also provides consistency and standardization for data. It also provides consistency and standardization for data to enter by offering selectable options. By offering selectable options. These are often presented. These are presented inside the drop-down box. Just now I told you, right? Whatever the entities that we create, in that we have all the type list, all these drop-down, whatever the drop-down information we are updating, right? Cancellations, renewals, right? These are all we call it as type list under the entities. Okay. For example, for example, uh, when we are maintaining the policy center, whatever the policy type that we identify, policy type means I already told you in the last sessions, if you remember, I told you under LOB, for example, home insurance we have taken. Policy type is policy type can be rental even. Okay, rental is one of the policy, or else it can be condo. Okay, it can be of any policy type, right? So policy type. Next, fields. Third one, fields. These are used to store. These are used to store the data. These are used to store the data of specific information. Of specific information for an entity. For example, when we have chosen the policy, that policy description under policy description, or when we are working on claims, or when we are working on claims, claim description, claim description, or loss date, or loss date, or comes under the fields, or comes under the fields. Fields means whatever the fields that you are updating in the particular unit, right? Data you are mentioning, claim description, it can be loss date, right? What type of policy description? These are all we call as fields. Next, extensions. Extensions. Extensions are the extensions are the extensions are also called not also extensions are the are the additional custom fields, additional custom fields, or any new entities, or any new entities which are adding, which are adding to the existing application. For example, you want to add some new entity. Some time back I told you, right? You want to add some new entity to the existing application. Or if you want to custom fields, means for example, here you can see these are all different fields that you will be finding in, right? You want to customize these fields, etc. Right? So what are the fields that we have? Right? So you want to customize all these fields and all. Whatever the additional fields are we creating, or else if there is any custom fields that we are doing or adding any new entities and all these things will be part of extensions. Got it? You're clear now, right?
Yes, sir.
So these are the major ones when we are trying to understand about the data model. And I'm explaining about the data model. First of all, you should have the familiar understanding about this. One is about the entities, majorly. Second, about the type list, followed by the fields, extensions, etc. All that. You are clear now, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right. So name nothing but strings, right? So all that. So anyway that I have given here, you can just write on this. Names means string. Done writing? Clear? Now,
Yes, sir. Clear. Yes.
now we must be knowing about types of data model because we have logical data model, right? So functional side, right? So different type of data models we have. So that part I'll be covering in tomorrow's session. Okay.
Yes, sir.